Hi everyone. Sorry that I have not made a video in so long. I've been a little busy. Excuse my bed, it's messed up. So today's topic, I'm talking about what I did for exams and like how I took like test taking strategies. So the first thing I would do is like bubble in Scantrons, write out my name on tests just to get that stuff out of the way. You don't want to find out that your test score got delayed or they messed up because you didn't have everything filled out. So get that out of the way. Second thing I would do is write out anything that I thought I was going to forget. Just like if you had to memorize all the amino acids, then just write out all the structures and then you can forget about it during the test. And you won't be like anxious throughout the rest of the test trying to remember it. Anything that you think you might forget during the test, just write it out. Or anything you think is worth writing down, just write it out first thing, get it out of the way, and then you can like not focus on remembering it during the test. And then I would read the instructions for the test. So, for example, I had a true-false test where A was true, B was false. I want to make sure I have that straight. Any kind of instructions, just read it carefully. You don't want to mess up. You don't want to look back and say, oh, if I'd only known this aspect of the test, you would have done better. So you don't want that. Then for every individual question, read the question carefully. Again, you don't want to make silly mistakes. Read it through, make sure I'm understanding each part of the question. Yes, sometimes there are filler parts of the questions, and usually sometimes, or like decent amount of time, you can have like the most important parts are like in the end, like that's where the real question is, but there can be hints throughout the whole question. So I'd read it, look at my options, pick an answer. Now, if there was ever a question where I just freaked out, I was like, oh my god, I do not understand what's going on in this question, just skip it or circle it, either on your Scantron or on the actual test. Just circle it and move on. I don't see any point in freaking out over a question that you don't get. You could just like bubble in whatever you think is right, circle it, and then come back to it later, or just skip it entirely, depending on how much of a time crunch you have. If you have the time, I don't see the point of bubbling it in, just like a guess. But if you're on a super time crunch, then yeah, maybe just bubble in what you think is right for now, and then hopefully come back to it later. And so then I go through the whole test, circle whatever I don't think is right. Don't spend any time that's freaking me out. So I would do that first round. And then second round, if this was a Scantron test, that's when I'd start bubbling stuff in. So I don't bubble anything the first time. I would just write on the test, oh, I think it's this answer, just circle it, and then move on. And then the second round, that's when I'd start filling stuff in. So I would fill in the Scantron as I go, and this is when I'd start looking more at the questions that I wasn't sure of. So that's when I'd start working on, okay, now let's figure this out. So I do that second round. And then if you have time for a third round, I don't know, for some reason my tests were like, at least the Scantron ones were pretty much, you know, I had a lot of time. So then I'd go maybe a third time. I don't know if you have to do a third time. And this is where I'm literally double checking my work, making sure, triple checking, I don't know what you call it. It's making sure that I bubbled in everything properly, because it annoys the crud out of me that if I don't bubble in something when I knew the answer, I just bubble in wrong, and I can tell you I've done that tons of times. And then I would also, make sure to kind of double check the work that I just did, you know, for the questions that I wasn't sure of on the first round. So then I have everything checked in, and now at this point, make sure that you have all the bubbles filled in, all your answers, box if necessary, if it's not a Scantron test. Always double check your work. I don't care what you say, like double check your work at least, because you don't know, you might mess up, and then like it's just, why would you not double check your work? And try and make sure that you actually read the question again thoroughly when you're double checking, because if you made a mistake the first time when you're reading it, you could easily make the same mistake again. They show those sentences where you automatically just misread it because you think you know what those sentences is going to say, but actually doesn't, like those little psych tricks. That could totally happen on a test. So make sure you read it with a clear mind the second time in case there's something that just clicks with you the second go. So do that. Make sure you bubble in everything. Make sure everything has an answer, and then submit the test. So if you guys want more specifics than that, or if you have any questions, let me know. but hopefully this gives you some insight on how to take a test, or at least how I did it.
Thank you guys.